packet. The community working group is scheduled to meet September 23, and it will be using Microsoft Teams, not meeting at the Woodlands Township. And that's my only edit.
Do I have a motion to approve the consent agenda with that change?
I make that motion.
Do I have a second? All those.
Abstain, because I wasn't at the August meeting.
Okay.
Abstain as well.
Oh, okay. So I have 2 abstentions and 3 approvals. All
Yes,
right.
yes.
Thank you. Okay. We're moving on to our regular agenda to line 11 to consider and act on the district's draft fiscal 2025-26 operating budget and recommended water rate structure.
So you have the budget in front of you. There's been no major changes since Eric presented the budget last month. Minor tweaks. Though just a quick note, the budget was calculated at the published rate of 0.067108. And so one thing that I do want to note is that for the participating MUDs for Bear Branch Dam, Eric has included the engineering, the additional the 500,000 that's in discussion in the budgets for those participating MUDs. And so the engineering can proceed and move along, and then he plans to come back to the MUDs in the next couple of months to start talking about any cost sharing and trying to get feedback from the MUDs on who may want to participate in that. So I just want to note that. So
So he wasn't going to bring anything this month. It's in the future sometime.
right, exactly.
Okay.
Yeah, he was thinking maybe just let the engineering, we need that to move forward. And
Absolutely.
then he'll come back in the next couple of months and start talking about it, you know, with y'all your interest in participating and sharing any cost. So
Okay.
All right. With that said, do I have a motion to approve the budget? Do I have a second? All those in favor?
Aye.
Item number 12 was consider and act on policy R&S 12 rates for the water service, which is on page 22 and 23.
So there's no change in the retail water and sewer rates that are being presented. There is a change though with the GRP rates. They have been reduced by 5 cents and those are reflected in that policy that we're asking for you guys to consider and act upon today.
Questions or comments?
No comments.
No.
Do I have a motion to approve?
I make that motion to approve.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Item number 13. Conduct a public hearing regarding the district's intent to levy a 2025 tax rate.
All right, this is where we adjourn our regular meeting and open the public hearing for any comments on the district's tax rate. And that rate was published in the Courier, correct? At 0.067108. All right, so we will open the public hearing for any comments. Being no members of the public present, we can close the public hearing and move to the next item.
Great, thank you. Item 14, to consider and act upon levy of the district's 2025 tax rate and the adoption of an order in connection therewith. Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Item 15, approval and execution of the amendment of the 9th amended and restated district information form.
This is the document that gets recorded in the property records y'all approve each year in connection with the tax rate approval. So the form reflects what your current tax rate is. So we need to update it to list your 2025 tax rate.
Do I have a motion?
I so move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay. Item 16, to receive our regular monthly SJR Woodlands Division report.
Malia Good from San Jacinto River Authority. On page 26 begins your monthly operations report from the Woodlands Division. A quick monthly summary, no violations, no major maintenance events or unplanned expenditures. We're still at that 50-50 water blend of groundwater and surface water. We did celebrate our 50-year anniversary as the Woodlands Division for services. And as that, we have a bunch of videos out on our Facebook page, and you can see some of the people who participated in those videos if you'd like to go share some of those. We did update a couple of the items in your packet, your monthly review for the fiscal year. Most note would be on page 28, your wastewater system. We showed you the flows for the fiscal year, added some detailed information there. And then on page 29, we gave you a couple graphs on our trending for our work orders and things for our maintenance areas. Finally, on our projects, there were no new projects to report. You will note that on the bottom of page 31 and over on the very top of page 32, you'll see those town center water line projects and the easements. And next month, you'll see those combined into one that we talked about last month. We just wanted to make sure you knew that we still had them separated. Fiscal year 26 starts next month, and you'll see those combined then. Water loss is at 5% for the year, a little bit above where we budgeted, should not impact anything. We also provided the GRP report in your packet. We have a GRP review committee meeting on Monday. That is, you can view that on our website live or later at your leisure. And with that, I'd answer any questions you might have. Very
Thank you
good.
very
Thank you.
much. Item 17, discuss and/or act on the water line renewal plan and analysis completed by HDR engineers.
All right, sorry for being late.
Welcome.
For requirements. So if you recall, the trustees last month requested SGRA to work with us to come up with a recommendation on when projects, what projects and when, and try to, look at the tiers that we've been given and identify scope and timing of where that would go, bring it back to the MUDs and the trustees. So we've done that. We're working through that. We had a meeting yesterday, I think a turning point meeting, I'd call it, to look at how that might look in terms of when the projects would come on, what the scope of them would be, with several directors that still have some questions. So our plan right now is to finish that analysis up, make recommendations to the trustees and the MUDs in October, and request the MUDs to direct their trustee to vote in November on how to proceed. And the how to proceed is basically giving direction to SGRA on where those projects, there's 7 projects. One, we're already starting engineering, obviously town center. There's 6 others. Where do they go on the 10-year project plan? And what is the scope exactly how HDR proposed it, or are there some variations? So that's kind of what we've been going through is, they tried to make their best recommendations based on break history, condition, all the things you saw in the presentation. But there's certain areas that we can tweak, maybe carve off little pieces, monitor them, maybe put them in another project and kind of work through that. So that's kind of what I'm expecting you to see in October. So that's the next step.
Few questions. I mean, first, I thought yesterday's meeting was great. It's very informative. So related to the conversation about the different spurs that are going to be separated out and potentially considered or not for, deferment or whatever the case is.
Yeah.
So I guess, how are we going to decide which of those to move forward with? And full transparency, I think there's naturally going to be potentially some bias for projects that are outside of your MUD, because those MUDs may not necessarily be responsible for the subsequent repair for future breaks or potentially the service disruptions in those areas. So I guess specific to us, I was thinking about that east-west connection in Grogan's Mill. That was part of that conversation, which I guess just raised some concern, especially since it's going to be one of the second tier projects. So we may not have the same length of time to be able to measure break data and things like that.
So I think that the recommendations that the MUDs that you'll get in October will be SGRA and WWA's best recommendation on what we believe to go forward, what the scope should be going forward with each of those projects. But as you heard, and just to give you all some perspective, let's just say, none of these water lines are all in a straight line, right? So there's spurs coming off of them. It goes different streets. It's all over the place, right? So, but when you start to look at the assessment, the condition assessment that was done, there some clarity comes a little bit to the page, and that is that you look at there's frequency of breaks on this bigger line here, and then the condition doesn't look like it's real good, and so you start to fill in that gap, and a portion of it might be green, but then there's orange and red in terms of bad or medium, and you kind of say, well, if you got red, and some green, you kind of connect the dots, right? That's probably makes more sense. Then you get to a point where you say, okay, well, here's a spur that goes off of that line, and right a mile down the road, 5 years ago, there was a break. The condition of the line appears to be okay. It's not bad, or so do we really connect that? Well, it did have a break. It's likely was built with the line you're building, so theoretically, it was probably built with the same material at the same time by the same contractor. I mean, we can look at those things and say, do we or do we not do that little spur? And I think that's kind of where it's coming down to. And so, and the expert acknowledged that, when identifying whether yay or nay on things like that, it's a little subjective. So we look at some other characteristics. Is it near a school, or is it near a hospital, or some other characteristics that might make you flip to say yes instead of no. And so I think, as far as, a particular, for political reasons, who wants what, or, this or that, I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at condition, break history, and, consequence of failure as far as where it is or what it serves or how many people it's, things like that. We would probably use to say yay or nay on some of the spurs, because they weren't as obvious, some of them.
Yeah, I think the ones up on Research Forest in particular, I understood the discussion. I was the discussion of the Grovings Mill, especially since I'm not sure there was a condition assessment in that section. But you have to assume with what some of the other ratings were, and the fact that that's AC line, right? That it would potentially be a problem. We just didn't get measurements on it.
Right. So another thing to note is, these are all going to be lined out in various years. And well, Town Center was a tier 2, but it's first on the list. Then we'll hit the tier 1s, and then tier 2s will likely, every couple of years, or over the next decade. What we kind of talked about was, let's just say if our immediate recommendation, let's say on a project that's 5 years from now, a tier 2, let's say, is to maybe not do that spur. We're not going to ignore that spur in the 10-year project plan. We're going to say our base recommendation in 2025 is that in 5 years, we're slating for this particular project to go forward. And the base project would include this line and this line, but we're going to remove these two, but keep it on the list, basically, and say over those next 5 years, that all of a sudden now there's a bunch of breaks on that spur. Well, guess what? Now that lays into the base project at that point, when that time comes. If it still hasn't had a break, and, if we want to do some additional condition testing and it still shows that it's good, then maybe it stays for a future project and doesn't get done at that 5th year or whatever, wherever it's contemplated.
So I would assume we'd have to think about how to consider those earlier projects, because, let's say a tier 1 or 2 project, we take off one of those spurs, and there are subsequent breaks, and there's still going to be additional sunk costs later if we try and take that in.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, and the example that the HDR gave yesterday, and this was years ago, I wasn't even aware of this, but it was kind of eye-opening, I guess it was Research Forest. There was from 2005 to 2008, there was a bunch of breaks on this segment of line.
Right.
And so SGRA came in and repaired that section of line. And just beyond that section of line, there wasn't historical breaks. As soon as they fixed that one, the weakest link was the next set
The next section. Yeah.
And then over the next 5 years, bunch of breaks. And then in 2019, they fixed that piece. Now, since then, the rest of the line continuing west only has one break on it. But who knows? It you just, there's no mathematical equation or method or anything that's going to exactly tell you when the line breaks. You just have to do, monitor what you have and be listening when it's talking to you, meaning when the lines are starting to break more frequently, you need to wake up and listen at that point. And so
with that in mind let's, I guess, related to the AC in particular. So if we start replacing segments around the AC, would that potentially increase, I mean, with the different material, would there be potentially more risk for additional stress or interior degradation of the AC water lines that?
possibly,
Okay.
I can't speak exactly, but on that, but possibly.
Yeah.
I mean, certainly the new line going in is going to be stronger and more durable for sure,
Right.
than a 50-year-old AC line.
So I think the conversation made sense. The specific conversations about that AC water line and Grogan's Mill raised some flags in my mind.
Yeah, and my proposal to the group, because some were saying, let's just, if we think we may not do those spurs, let's just remove them. And I said, let's put them on the plan
Right.
Yeah.
and
Scale back.
scale and decide 5 years from now when we because I don't want to take them off now and then everybody has their eye on this number, this cost number, and then we get whoops. Now we got to add this one. Now we got to add this one, and now the number jumps. What I'd rather do is drop the number, not raise the number. Does that make sense? So that's kind of, and that seemed to resonate with folks. So I think we may capture it differently by saying base versus optional or however we word it. But I just wanted everybody to see the potential of what it could be. And then reality will tell us kind of where to go at that point. Is it really breaking or is it still not breaking?
Yes.
Still not breaking.
So part of this whole effort will be an ongoing monitoring activity.
That goes with, absolutely.
So how is that rolled into operations? It doesn't get seen on the capital side, the monitoring.
So my understanding is, SGRA has their own database on their asset lines or their lines. And when a line breaks, they document that in their system. So I think we're going to need to develop a kind of a watch plan, whatever it looks like. I mean, it's easy for you to pop those into GIS. Then we need to have a plan to say, okay, on some frequency, let's pull that out and say what happened last year, because in the moment you're just fixing stuff and
You're reacting.
But then I think it's important that we look back annually or when it's time to proceed with the next project and say, okay, what was contemplated? Okay, is anything changed from the base case?
Yeah.
And if it has, or this segment is broken a bunch, well, let's move on it. Let's go ahead and add it.
So
And it may be that just something I thought about too is it may be a different segment that hasn't even been contemplated, but all of a sudden there's
the starting
breaks
breaks. Yeah.
Well, we need to be awake on that and make sure we're able to maneuver.
So thinking about the timeline between initial design, that go ahead, and then further going into the process, including construction, that's like a 4-year-ish timeframe. Am I getting that about right?
Roughly, yeah.
Okay, so I can see how these things are overlapping, but there has to be a flag go up and say, okay, we've got to start considering project X 3 years from now, before anything's done.
So that will be aligned in the 10-year project plan.
Gotcha.
That will be your roadmap.
Yeah.
You don't have to, it's not absolute, but it's a roadmap.
Right.
It's your guidelines for how we're going to do things.
Right.
And so I think as we're approaching again, and I think it's worth talking about, okay, next year it shows on the list that we were going to start rolling with this next one.
Right.
It might be that, 6 months prior, we just dig up the GIS data and say, okay, this is what was contemplated. Where are we now?
Right.
Those segments, are they breaking more than they were? Are they not? Okay, what is the project going to look like? And then move forward.
As long as everyone's on with that bit of rationale, that this is the project plan going forward, it could change. There could be additional elements. There might actually be a switch between projects depending on
I guess that could very well happen too.
Yeah.
A project that was delineated in year 7 could just start, having breaks, we move it up to year 5.
Yeah,
That's very possible.
I think we all need to acknowledge that level of flexibility in executing our approvals for such projects.
I think we had, somewhat of a breakthrough yesterday, just talking about this, that I think that going forward, certainly for the base, whatever the base scope model is for the 7 projects, I think there's buy-in for what that would look like. Now, and then with this idea about monitoring the spurs that maybe not in the initial base, and monitoring those as we get close to the project, that seemed to also resonate, that idea with this group. So there was 5 districts represented. Well, and then there was folks on the call too.
Yeah. There were fewer numbers in person than the last time.
Yeah. I thought it was a good.
Which was telling for me, that something had moved. Yeah.
So I think it was positive. It was a positive
Yeah.
move. And
I came away with that sense as well.
I think October, November, we'll be able to make some movements on this, and I think we'll be good. And then we need to figure out how we're going to pay for it all, but that's a whole nother.
Well, yeah, that's another discussion.
Might want to not forget that part.
Yeah.
That's the critical piece.
Yeah.
Kind of.
But we can't really do that analysis until we know where it falls on the
Project.
your project
Yeah,
plan,
yeah,
because
exactly.
I mean, ultimately, as each project, gets started, there's likely going to be a stair step, whether that's rates or tax rates or water. I mean, however that ends up happening, once we know where those projects fall and the magnitudes on that project plan, then we'll be able to do that financial analysis to give the directors guidance on how we want to go for it. What do we want to do? How are we going to pay for it? So
really, you want to try to minimize the overall cost to customers. So it's that mix of bond versus rate, bond tax, et cetera.
we'll see.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay. So item number 18, discuss and/or act on the Bear Branch Dam modification project, spillway reconstruction and dam safety assessment.
All right. So some things so we talked a little bit about your possible involvement in the project last month. I want to put that aside right now for the time being. We presented to the township a couple of weeks ago, SJ and I, on a number of projects. Ed presented on this project. Conversation got a little sideways. There was a Houston Chronicle and Courier article on it that didn't paint the best picture of the conversation, perhaps, or a positive one. There was concern about the dam and its condition and all that has strummed up a lot of stuff over the last few weeks that I've been dealing with. But that's kind of led me to say that what we've done this month is, so recall the engineering for the original scope, which was the service spillway, the middle part. And I know y'all might not have seen all the details of that presentation, but that funding was already in place. And during the preliminary engineering of that scope is when they identified, oops, you might want to look at this other piece. And that was phase 2 or whatever. That was the auxiliary spillway, the wider part of the spillway. And so that did not have immediate funding in place. So instead of kind of everybody debating on whether we want to participate in the whole thing, I said, you know what, let's get the engineering established first. So we put the engineering shortage, $500,000, split 5 ways with the current stakeholders in their budgets currently. And I think we have 2 left today to approve that funding. That way we can say projects moving forward, right? And we still have a shortage on funds for some of the construction, which we have various plans with, Crenshaw potentially. If that falls through, there's some other backup plans. But what I would anticipate is coming back to y'all probably in the next month or 2 and propose some sort of participation plan that may not specifically be related to connections, as you saw that example, but maybe like a per household, like a per connection. Like for instance, $5 a household or $10 a household times your connections, and maybe come up with some sort of participation that way, if you even want to. But I know that's still up in the air. I really wanted to get the stakeholders are the ones, by the way. The non-stakeholders don't have any legal obligation to do anything, even if they want to, because they're not a party to the contract. So the 5 stakeholders are the ones that need to make the decision to move forward, at least at this point, and they have with the engineering. So we can figure out the rest over the next, it's going to take 12 months or so.
Oh, so that is the time scale.
Yeah, I
we're
think
thinking
Ed
of.
said 12 to 15 months,
Yeah,
maybe
yeah,
something like
yeah.
that from memory.
So HDR, do you have another?
No, go ahead.
HDR, I mean, there's obviously a ton of variability in the final cost still, right? When
Of
you,
what?
the total project.
The dam?
Yeah,
Yeah, so now that once the 5 months approve it, by the end of the day, then Schnabel will get rolling on the rest of it. And I've talked to Ed about some things they're working on just to engineer it and some design options that might help some cost things. But they're going to be working through that. Too early to tell really until they get kind of further along in the design.
is there still going to be considerable, is that range still going to be fairly broad when you come back to us with the proposal? So just planting a couple seeds, I wonder if there's a way where if we do some sort of prorated agreement, is there a way that we can, the prorated makes sense in case the costs decline, but if the costs increase, can we set up an NTE in that supplemental agreement so that if it cost skyrockets by 50%, we still get to go back and review our participation?
If we do something more along the lines of what I'm proposing for the non-stakeholders, then it won't fluctuate.
Okay.
It's just a number. It's just, what happened is if you add all 10, which not all of them are necessarily at the moment wanting to proceed, and you throw it just straight connections, well, that starts to ramp up some of the current stakeholders' shares go way up because it's not on a connection of the district. It was based originally on connections of the area that flows to it. That's different than total connections. But since we add people that don't flow to it and you just go to straight connections, then their shares go way up.
Sure.
So I think what they're probably more interested in is for the non-stakeholder MUDs, are they just to be a partner in the community and to the project? Do they just want to look for a way to just put some money up, not necessarily based on connections or based on, so.
Well, and I would assume there's probably some serious cost savings for maintenance long-term for the stakeholders if once this project's completed, right?
Potentially,
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and I don't know, long-term, this could be just a capital participation. I don't even know if any of the districts even want to participate long-term in the maintenance part of it, but they may just participate in the capital part of it and just say, we want to be a partner, but we don't necessarily, y'all go ahead and maintain it, but now that it's repaired, we're good.
Is it repair though? Because you're replacing an entire system in a flood mitigation structure. And what we don't know, it's a complete design change. It's self-evident that the current design is not all current standards. There are issues, I think, with that part of it. But what we don't know is, what about the rest of the embankment? This is the question that keeps coming up every report I've read. And I can share my summaries with you.
Well, I know SGRA is, so dams have to be inspected every 5 years. And so they inspect it every year throughout the year, but they're going to have the official 5-year inspection come next year. And that'll be a thorough inspection of all the rest of it.
Well, that's what leads me. You led me in very nicely into inspection versus monitoring. Visual inspection tells you very little about what is inside the dam, but usually provides the first indicator of adverse performance. And so it seems to me there's another step running in parallel with the design, and that is to get a better idea of what is going on in the earthen part of the dam. And that hasn't been part of the conversation, as far as I can tell.
Because that wasn't from the original recommendations. It was inspected.
Well, yes, I just said, but it doesn't tell you what's going on inside the dam itself. There's discussion of seepage, there's discussion in these reports, discussion of silt and materials moving into through cracks and crevices into the stilling basin area that needs to be cleaned out every few years or whatever.
Right.
So I think there's more to it. I mean, Scrabble had a survey done as part of their study, and on the left embankment, right adjacent to the left auxiliary spillway, there's a sag along the crest, and then on the left embankment, yeah, and on the right embankment, there's a depression on the just adjacent to the right hand auxiliary spillway, which doesn't occur on the other side. So there are some things going on that need, in my view, need to be addressed. And I'd also like to actually have a site visit. I mean, I don't see us going into anything blind. I want to make sure that whatever decisions, participation level, et cetera, that's going to be money well spent. That will do one of two things: tell us what is going on in the embankment part, and then two, help us with decisions going down the road as to maybe we need to get in, put in more investment into the dam as a mud because of the consequences of a breach, which is pretty extraordinary. When you have a look at that little skinny diagram that was shown at the Schnabel July presentation. Well, when you start to look at it in a bit more detail, think about what was said, the consequences could be 15 miles downstream, which is outside the woodlands and includes parts of Houston. Anyway, what I'm getting at is, we need to, by all means, support going forward with the design, but we also need to be thinking about some other questions. Okay, is that fair?
That's where we're heading.
Okay.
We're asking those questions.
Well, I sent, speaking of questions, I sent a goodly list to you all of questions. Did you have any comments on that? You comfortable with me sending them to?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Couple
All
of
right.
stars. I like the question you had about flood mitigation projects being conducted as piecemeal efforts. Is that what you're talking about? That
Well, I'm talking about the big picture thing.
big picture?
Well, see, there's the Bear Branch drainage project, which,
Yeah.
there's this project on the dam. Well, how does that impact the next thing down? And let's see what else. Oh, yeah, the Woodlands has a specific item in their 2026 capital budget for, and it says Lake Woodlands Dam. So they've taken ownership of something happening at Lake Woodlands Dam.
But they have to do the same thing for your inspection.
Yeah, but the
maintenance.
owner is the Woodlands Development Company,
It's
is
operated by the township.
Townships.
but operated by the township. Okay,
So they have to do the same things that we.
so this $484,201 is related to inspection services.
And maintenance.
Okay, which is doing what's being done at Bear Branch.
No idea what the scope of theirs is.
Oh, okay,
I don't
okay,
know.
okay. Well, they have they're part of the game here. They're not too, to me, as a whole drainage system, they're supposed to be working together in a different context. It's like Lake Houston, Lake Houston and Lake Conroe working together to manage releases so that we don't get a repeat of the big floods that happened with Harvey and other events. So it's a system that they're operating now, as opposed to previously, the things were operating independently.
Sure.
Yeah. So anyway, let me get to the questions. I was going to make a little presentation here, but I won't under the circumstances because it's a bit premature.
I
So,
will forward them on to SJRA.
okay, very good.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, item number 19, to consider an act on pay application number 2 for the retail wastewater collection system rehabilitation -year 2.
We didn't receive.
Okay, all right.
Okay.
All right. We are ready for our attorney's report.
Nothing on the, nothing that's not separately on the agenda for me to discuss with y'all today.
Thank you.
Yep.
Our general manager's report.
I think we've talked about just about everything except communications. John?
Afternoon. Have your report on page 56. We are in the fourth quarter of our focus area of our strategic plan, which is value as focus area for this period. We were in water conservation for the summer. Now transition for the next few months into value, and you can see the objectives as defined in the strategic plan for that focus area to give you a better sense of what we're trying to accomplish. Bear Branch Dam, talking about that. We will have a piece out here soon from Woodlands Water on that as well. We'll make sure you see that. Next page, infrastructure renewal. I know we've been talking about this for a while, but we are getting very close on that GIS map and the renewal video. The Board of Trustees did see the explainer video last week. Final production stage on that, so you'll be seeing that soon. I've got a worthy presentation coming up next Thursday, the 25th. The USGS, Jason Ramage, a hydrologist with USGS, will be presenting a summary of the annual study of water table elevations in our region. That's going to be held at HARC at 6 p.m. on Thursday, the 25th. It's also going to stream live, so you don't have to go down there if you don't want to. It's a cool building. I encourage it, but if you want to watch it from your couch, you can just QR that Zoom link, or you see the Zoom link there. And if you don't make it live, we will definitely push out that recording as well for you. Some current market materials here in the next couple pages, and an outreach calendar for you on bottom of page 59. The next big event being Landscaping Solutions next Saturday at Rob Fleming, Saturday the 27th. We'll be out there for that. Any questions? Thank you.
Thank you. Trustees report.
Okay, the trustees report starts on page 60. Things of note, SJRA folks came and gave an overview. So the council, Mr. Mike Page, is it? Mitch
Page. I'm like,
He gave a high-level presentation. I was like,
really? I was like,
Mitch is my son.
Oh.
Is he?
yeah,
oh,
a
is it?
summary of the settlement.
I think
So that may be of interest to some. And then as far as communication, just following up, there's going to be a virtual meeting next week on the 23rd for the community working group. And the details of the agenda or the exercises to be done are still being worked on. So it should be a very interesting meeting.
That's on Teams, right?
Hmm?
It's through Teams.
Microsoft Teams, yes.
Yeah, they'll be hearing the
HDR.
summary of the HDR. Or a smaller version of it, pared down version of it.
Was that HDR meeting recorded? Is it available?
It is. Yeah, we're going to be posting that. So yesterday's meeting, yeah, so that you can see that. Sure will.
Okay, thank you.
That's it.
Thank you.
Let's.
Do we have a reason to assess?
We do not.
Okay. Okay. Any agenda items for next month, any? I think adjourned.
This is a